Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the Johns Hopkins School of Education virtual information session. This afternoon's session will focus on program and admissions information for our Postmaster's Certificate in Applied Behavior Analysis. We are very excited to share with you some of the exciting and dynamic opportunities that this program has to offer. My name is Liz Woodward, and I serve as the Director of Admissions here at the school. I am joined this afternoon by the Faculty Director for our Applied Behavior Analysis program, Dr. Tamara Martyr, and two of our alums working in the field of behavioral analysis, Leslie Coleman and Jackie Devon, as well as my colleague in admissions, Tanya McMillan, who works closely to support our applicants through the process of applying. Before we get started, I would like to cover a few logistical items for today's presentation. First, today's webinar is being recorded. The admissions office will make the recorded presentation available both on our website and through email to you following the event, should you wish to review it again, or maybe even share it with a friend or colleague who may also be interested in our Applied Behavior Analysis Postmaster Cert. Please take a moment to make certain that your microphone is on mute and your video camera is off during the presentation. At the conclusion of today's event, we will invite you to ask questions of our presenters and admissions team using the chat function in your toolbar screen. Together with my colleague Tanya and our presenters, we will read and answer questions aloud, and hopefully give you be able to answer each of your questions about both the admissions and the process and the program. Just a quick view of today's agenda and the information that we'll be covering. To start us off, I'm just going to share a very brief overview of Johns Hopkins University and then Johns Hopkins School of Education and where we fit into the university. I will then turn the presentation over to Dr. Martyr and our alumni guests who will be sharing their experience with you. And toward the end of this session today, I'm going to come back with some details on the application process, tuition, things like financial aid and scholarships. And finally, we will conclude with the question and answer period I explained to you a little bit earlier. Okay, so as you can see here, for those of you that are familiar or not familiar with Johns Hopkins as a whole, enrolls more than 24,000 full-time and part-time students across our 9 academic divisions. Our flagship campus is located in Baltimore City. We call it the Homewood campus. We also have classroom facilities and sites throughout the Baltimore, DC region and some internationally. Established in 2007, the Johns Hopkins School of Education is the youngest of these 9 divisions and has quickly taken its place as a national leader in educational reform and innovation. Grounded in the university's tradition of research and evidence-based practice, the School of Education consistently ranks among the top graduate schools of education in the nation as ranked by US News and World Report. And recently we were named number 12 in the Times University World Rankings. In addition, some of the features the School of Education also has collaborative partnerships with national teacher preparation organizations such as Teach for America and the Urban Teachers Program. So over the past 14 years, the school has really grown its mission to train teachers, school leaders, counselors, and practitioners to meet the contemporary challenges of teaching and learning. And today, the school has over 127 full-time faculty, 2,400 enrolled students across 30 degree programs spanning from initial teacher preparation, counseling, interdisciplinary and advanced studies, such as our doctoral programs, as well as our autism and applied behavior analysis programs that are going to be the focus of today's session. The purpose of today's event is really twofold. First, to give you an overview of the curriculum, practicum, internships, and admissions process. But second is to connect you to our faculty and alumni who can share with you firsthand testimony of what their learning experience in the program was like, as well as current research trends and how they are applying what they've learned in the field in their current professions today. This is a chance for you to ask questions We hope that you find today's session useful and look forward to receiving your completed application for our upcoming fall 2021 semester start. If you are interested in starting next fall, we encourage you to start the process as soon as possible. And Tanya and I in the admissions office, as well as Dr. Marta, are here to assist you in navigating that process. So as we get started, I'd like to introduce Dr. Marta, our first speaker. Dr. Marta serves as the faculty lead for our Autism and Applied Behavior Analysis programs. She is an associate professor for the Behavior Analysis Autism and our Masters in Severe Disabilities Autism program. She is a licensed psychologist and a board certified behavior analyst. She has worked in the field of behavior analysis for 26 years and has extensive experience working with children with developmental disabilities and families in a variety of settings, including schools, homes, and hospitals. Her research interests include improving outcomes for students with developmental disabilities through the effective training and preparation of teachers and professionals who provide educational services. In 2015, Dr. Marta received the Johns Hopkins University Alumni Association Excellence in Teaching Award, and most recently, she has been named the 2021 president for the Maryland Association for Behavior Analysis. So without further ado, I will turn the program presentation over to Dr. Marta.
Thank you, Liz. Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have you here and to talk about our ABA program. Always to start off, we want to talk about what is ABA. I'm assuming that most of you have an understanding of ABA, of Applied Behavior Analysis, but I'd like to give a quick overview of what we are talking about when we talk about Applied Behavior Analysis. So we're really looking at the principles of learning and behavior. So this is the scientific study of understanding why humans do what they do. Why do we behave and engage in behaviors that we engage in every day? We also know from applied behavior analysis that once we have this foundation of why behaviors occur, we can also look at how do we apply those principles to teach new behaviors or new skills and to improve socially important behavior for all individuals. When we think about behavior analysis, we think about getting certified in behavior analysis to show your competency in this field. And becoming a board certified behavior analyst is a graduate level certificate in behavior analysis. And so that is why we offer our ABA program, because it leads to eligibility to apply for and become a board certified behavior analyst. So when we think about what practitioners of behavior analysis do, what activities are they engaged in, and we think about our program, which is mainly focused on K through 12 education, we think about what we do in school settings. So a lot of these, the list in front of you that you see should be familiar to you if you work in a K through 12 setting or if you work, let's say, in an ABA agency. So being able to conduct assessments, behavioral assessments, being able to analyze data and make decisions based on the data to improve learning outcomes for students and clients. Being able to write and revise behavior analytic intervention plans. So developing an intervention plan and then implementing it, and then training others to implement it as well as overseeing the implementation. And what we have is our Behavior Analyst Certification Board, which sort of sets the standards for all of our knowledge and competencies within behavior analysis. And we're now up to the 5th edition of what we call our task list, which identifies all the competencies. So really being able to implement, to know and be able to implement and apply all of those items within the 5th edition task list all come under what is ABA. But let's talk now specifically about this program, the Postmaster Certificate in in Applied Behavior Analysis. And the ABA program at Johns Hopkins is designed for special educators, general educators, coordinators, administrators, school psychologists, school counselors. We also have a speech and language pathologist who's now in our program. And so it's really, again, designed for that K through 12 setting. And within the program, candidates will learn the evidence-based practice of ABA. So how do we use applied behavior analysis to meet the needs of students who receive special education services? And they can be receiving those special education services in a general education setting as well. Just last night in class, we were talking about ABA and inclusion and how do we implement behavior analysis in an inclusive setting. The program also supports the career goals of educators and other school personnel who desire this specialized training. So hopefully that is all of you who are joining us today on the webinar. When we break down the coursework, and I'm going to get into a little bit more detail on this as we go through, but generally there are 7 courses, which is about 21 credits. We also offer the practicum coursework to enable our candidates to get the supervised fieldwork that's required to become eligible to become board certified in behavior analysis. And I'm going to go into detail on that, but we offer that through 4 elective courses to accrue those hours. And folks who decide to do both the courses and the practicum courses can complete the program in 3 years. Another piece of our program is our faculty who, without our faculty, we've got a lot of faculty who are board certified behavior analysts who are working in the field and then also teaching with us in the evening. So our program, the Association for Behavior Analysis International, is our professional organization that verifies all of the coursework to meet the requirements to become board certified in behavior analysis. So we go through this verification every single year where ABAI looks at our program. It's called a verified course sequence. So we are considered a verified course sequence through the Association for Behavior Analysis International. Okay. So the format of the program, I think I mentioned that it takes about 3 years to complete the program. So students can complete all courses and practicum electives within 6 semesters. That's across 3 years with taking 2 courses each semester. So the program is designed to take 2 courses per semester. So it's considered part-time. And all of the courses are offered in the evening in our location in Columbia, and that's 2 nights per week that we offer those classes. Again, it's in the evening, so folks who work full-time in a school setting or other settings are able to come to campus in the evening to be able to take those courses. We also, as I mentioned, offer the practicum experiences or the fieldwork experiences through our practicum courses. And we work very closely with our students to ensure that their place of employment will meet the criteria for becoming, for practicing behavior analysis. So we always want to make sure that when students are completing the supervised fieldwork experiences, that their place of employment, especially if you're working in a school setting, will meet those requirements. If they don't, we also will work with our candidates to place them in an appropriate site that will allow them to practice behavior analysis and receive those supervised hours. So we do that in coordination with our practicum coordinator. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about practicum after I go through this slide that talks about our course sequence. So if you see here on the last 2 rows, we have the practicum electives are in the 2nd and 3rd year of the program. If you go up to the first row, the fall semester, year 1, the first 2 courses that students enroll in, and again, this is a cohort model, so you go through this program with your peers, and Jackie and Leslie will be talking about that a little bit when they come up to speak about their experiences. But the first year of the program, the first semester, students take 2 courses. One is the Intro to ABA course in special education, and the other is our research methods, our single case design course. The Intro to ABA course, I always say, is like moving to a new country and learning a new language, because during that course we talk about all of the concepts and principles of applied behavior analysis. We get very in-depth with all the terminology, so our students are fluent with all the different terminology and understand it. And then also in the single case design course, we're really looking at how do we measure behavior and how do we analyze that behavior to ensure that our interventions that we're designing are effective. So once you have those 2 courses under your belt, you've got all the principles an understanding of behavior and also how to measure behavior, we move into the spring semester where we get into that. Now, how do we apply it? So the first course is the behavioral assessment and intervention for challenging behaviors, where we're really looking at how do we assess these challenging behaviors that we might see, and how do we decrease those behaviors. We focus mostly on functional analysis in this course, and functional behavior assessment and all the different types of interventions that are evidence-based, that are based in the research that tell us these are effective interventions for decreasing these challenging or excess behaviors that we see. Also during this semester, we go over ethics, which is an excellent course where we talk about what are our ethics as behavior analysts, how do we make sure that we are participating in our community and serving our clients in an ethical way, and also how do we behave, what's our behavior as behavior analysts. Then we move into the second year and we continue to apply the concepts from the first year in the first semester, where we move into behavioral assessment of instructional strategies. So where we had the semester before behavioral assessment and intervention for challenging behaviors, so we want in that class we talk about decreasing behavior, and this class on instructional strategies we're talking about increasing behaviors that we want to see. So typically when we decrease behaviors, we also want to increase behaviors that we want to see. We can't just decrease behaviors without teaching a new behavior or new skill. But we separate those two courses out. So in the fall semester, we really talk about what are all the different learning and teaching strategies that we can use to improve skills and outcomes for our students. And then students can take the practicum elective during that fall semester of the second year. In the spring semester, we move into our newest course, which is supervision and consultation practices. So this is really how do we supervise other people to implement behavior analytic practices. And this is super important in our field, and it's an area of growth for our field. So this is our newest course. So how do we work with teams? How do we work with individuals who are implementing those plans? And potentially as students complete our program and go on to become board certified behavior analysts, how do they become supervisors themselves of the next generation of behavior analysts? And then finally, in the fall semester of year 3, we have our final class, which is applications of ABA in the classroom. And this is really a seminar class where we're looking at special topics within ABA that apply to educational settings. Also during this class, we spent a lot of time talking about how do you prepare for the BCBA exam? What are the strategies that you can use to help you study, and how do you get ready for that exam? And we have some great strategies that we go over in that class. So as you can see in the second and third year, you can take the 4 separate practicum electives. And then once you graduate in the third year of the program, you complete the program and you've taken all of the coursework and the elective practicum, you are eligible to sit for the exam as long as you've completed all of the hours for fieldwork experience, which I'll talk about in our next slide. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm so sorry. First, I'm going to talk about the learning outcomes. Then I'll talk about the practicum electives. So as you see here on this slide, there's a lot of words. And what we're focusing on here is what are the outcomes? What do we expect our students who graduate from our program what do we expect them to be able to do once they finish our program? So some of the things, really, one is just understanding these concepts, be able to understand, define, and also apply all these different concepts and principles within behavior analysis. Also, we want our students to be able to use the methods that they've learned through our single case design course to evaluate if their interventions are effective, and what are the best interventions for their students and how do we measure that. We also want our students to be able to conduct behavioral assessments to not only decrease those challenging behaviors, but assessments to identify how to increase the behaviors we want to see. And then we also want our students who come out of our program to be able to design, implement, and evaluate any interventions. That can be instructional programs, or it could be behavior reduction programs. We also want all of our students to be ethical into practice ethically, and then be able to implement, manage, and practice behavior analysis in educational settings. And the ultimate goal of our program, the learning outcome, and I'll share some data with you shortly, is that we want all of our students to be able to successfully complete the BCBA exam by passing the exam when they take it. Okay, next slide. I think next slide is practicum. Yes, practicum. Okay, so the practicum elective courses are not required to get the postmaster certificate from Johns Hopkins University. So I want to make sure that that's clear. These are additional courses so that students can get the supervised fieldwork experience in order to be eligible to sit to take the exam. So in order to become a board certified behavior analyst, you have to both have all of the coursework as well as all the fieldwork experience. So if you're not yet familiar with the requirements for becoming board certified and completing the fieldwork experience, you should definitely check out the Behavior Analyst Certification Board website. They've actually really nicely updated their website. They have a lot of visuals of all the different pathways to become a board certified behavior analyst. So I highly recommend that you check out that website, bacb.com, to review all of the different requirements. But I'm going to give you a quick summary of what that looks like. So our program, we complete there's two options for completing the fieldwork experience. We complete the concentrated experience fieldwork through our practicum electives. The great benefit of doing the elective courses with us for practicum is that we do all the hard work for you. You can focus in on gathering all of your hours and accruing all of your hours and getting the experience. We take the time to make sure that you have a supervisor who's board certified, who is eligible to be a supervisor, and we vet those supervisors for you. We also review your placements and make sure that they are also appropriate experiences for you, to make sure that they meet all of the requirements to become board certified and all the requirements the Behavior Analyst Certification Board lays out. We also have a practicum coordinator who is amazing at her job and makes sure that all of our supervisors are trained. She provides training for them throughout the year in support. And she also is your liaison as a student in the program to make sure that your needs are being met as the supervisee in this situation. As part of the practicum electives, you keep hearing they're practicum electives, they're actually courses, right, that you're going to enroll in. And so you have a face-to-face seminar with the instructor during the week, along with your individualized supervisor that we provide to you. So you can complete, if you complete the 4 semesters of the practicum electives, then you will be able to complete the required 1,500 hours of supervised fieldwork. So within each 15-week semester, students are able to accrue 25 hours per week, and they are provided with supervision 1.5 hours per week with their individual supervisor, and 1 hour per week with the group supervisor, which is part of that face-to-face seminar. So we've really done all the math to make sure that all of our students can complete all of the required hours to become board certified behavior analysts. Okay, so some additional information about the program. Again, I think I said this, but upon successful completion of the 7 courses, you can receive a postmaster's certificate in applied behavior analysis from Johns Hopkins School of Education. And then as you successfully complete the 4 elective practicum courses and accrue all of the hours, those 1,500 hours, you will then be eligible to apply to the BACB for certification. Students are responsible for applying and supplying all the supporting documentation. We definitely train you on all the supporting documentation. So if any of you out there have already looked at the BACB requirements, you see there's a lot of documentation requirements. You are responsible for applying and supporting those documents, providing those supporting documents. But again, we really provide a lot of training on what that documentation is. It's important to note that we don't offer or award that certification in behavior analysis. You have to go to the BACB to get that certification. We provide you with the coursework and that certificate, that postmaster certificate in behavior analysis. And then finally, it is expected that students who go through our programs will pursue becoming a board certified behavior analyst, a BCBA. Once you go through the program, in order to call yourself a behavior analyst or to practice as a behavior analyst, you do need to have that certification. Okay, and then I'm going to hand things over to our alumni. We have 2 alumni that are going to be talking to you. The first is Leslie Coleman, who is a 2020 graduate of our program. So she experienced completing our program in the middle of a global pandemic. She is a behavior specialist in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. And then we also have Jackie Devon, who also graduated in 2020. And she's our most recent graduate to become board certified, and she is also a special educator, in Baltimore County Public Schools. So I'm going to turn things over to Leslie, and then Jackie will speak after, and then we'll come back to me to finish up a few more details about the program.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leslie Coleman. Thank you so much, Dr. Marder, for the introduction. As she said, I am currently a behavior specialist working in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. I service a cluster of schools in the county. I work primarily in the Fort Meade area. I am a special educator by trade. I was a special educator for years, working with children birth to 5, primarily who had severe and moderate diagnoses of autism. So that really was my experience prior to this. I've only been in this role for about 1.5 years now. I have a few things I wanted to share. And the way that this program really prepared me for my current position, I can say for this job, it's specifically, I don't exactly work daily with children per se. I work, I cover a whole section of the county, K through 12. I'm mostly working with adults, and I use applied behavior analysis to coach teachers and train and help and provide that resource. Usually special educators refer very challenging students that are included in general education. Most of them have IEPs, and I assist those teachers and teams in conducting functional behavior assessments, and then from there, writing those effective behavior plans. So I am constantly modeling, I'm coaching, I'm helping in the implementation, and the program really prepared me in doing that. I'm using behavior skills training every day constantly, which if you do join this program, you'll be hearing that word a lot during your practicum, which is basically you're systematically modeling, coaching, training, and those working, with the most difficult students. Eventually, I really hope to go back to early childhood, as that is my passion, and provide direct service to students who have, or children, clients that have autism. And I think that after completing this program, I'll probably look at that a lot differently now that I have this training and this certification. I'm so happy that I will have that opportunity now. I mean, this certification really leads us to a lot of opportunity, which is wonderful. I have to say what I learned most from the program. I think coming in, I was a great special educator. I was passionate about students. I was passionate about my job. But I think how, this field is really a science. And what I learned most was how to collect behavioral data, how to use that data to create function-based behavior plans, and how to analyze that data after you implement a plan through visual analysis and all of that. I think those are the specialized training and those skills that really make effective, behavior analysts, even special educators. And those are skills I did not have before completing this program. I also really learned how to research. I learned how to analyze research. I learned how to look through, journal articles and go back to the research. And if there was a question about an intervention, our professors would always say, what does the research tell you? What does the research tell you? And I think I never really knew how to really look through a journal article and piece it together and sift through it and make meaningful decisions following it. And that this program really taught me how to do that. And lastly, also what I learned is that behavior is not only something that needs reducing. I think when you first come into this program, or at least for me, we think about behavior as, bad behavior, right? Just for lack of better terms, or challenging behavior, interfering behavior. And oftentimes that is the case. And that's why we're called into the school buildings. However, this program really reminded me that it's not just about behavior reduction, but skill acquisition. And a lot of times, especially in our schools, it's students who need to learn how to learn, especially our youngest students, and learn those behavior skills that are necessary to be successful as well. So I learned a lot about that through the program. The faculty, I can't speak highly enough about the faculty. The support that we received, they were always available for any questions, day or night. I mean, it was amazing. If we sent an email, we would have responses. They were guiding us always to the answers, but in a way that we would find them on our own, if that makes sense. They really taught us the ability to think critically and use our experiences to, guide us to do the right thing and make the right decisions and come up with the right plans. And I know that for us, practicum was not an elective. We had to take the practicum through the program. And I mean, I can't tell you enough that these professors guide you through it. The faculty guide you through it, support you through it. It's a lot of hours and it's a lot of paperwork, and they just helped so much. I wouldn't have been able to do the program without their support. And lastly, I just want to tell what surprised me most, I think, is that number one, how close I became with members of my cohort. I still speak to them frequently. We still collaborate with each other about things. We, shared our joys together. We cried together when things got a little tough, and we became honestly like a family. And to be honest, when COVID hit and we weren't able to see each other every week to talk about our things that we did that were great and to discuss things together, it was a bummer, but we were still able virtually. We still did study sessions via Zoom. We did all of that and collaborated together, and honestly still do. So my cohort, we were rock stars, and I couldn't have done it without them. I think that surprised me the most, that I will have lifelong friends after this experience. And I always knew that becoming a BCBA would help me grow, create opportunities for me, all of that, add to my special ed toolbox. I mean, those are things I always knew, but I think what surprised me is that ABA is really a science, right? And it literally changed my life. And that's what's most surprising. It changed how I work with teachers. It changed how I work with students. It changed how I worked with families. People who have behavior disorders, or people that have children with behavior disabilities, struggle more than we can possibly imagine. And to provide behavior change can really literally change lives. And I think it's so fulfilling, and doing work that can change lives is amazing. And I think that that's what surprised me the most. It wasn't just, this is going to give me great opportunity. This program, this certification, this field has changed my life. And I will continue to grow and research and read. And I'm constantly learning. And I just can't speak highly enough about it. So I think that's it. I hope I didn't go over my 5 minutes. I probably did, because I can't talk enough about behavior analysis and this program. So good luck, and I'll stay on in case you have any questions. Jackie's going to take it from here and fill in anything that I forgot. So take it away, Jackie.
Everybody, I'm Jackie. Leslie, you did a fabulous job as always. And Dr. Martyr, thank you for having me here today. I am excited to talk about ABA because, as you probably can already tell, once you start this program, you will become pretty passionate about the subject and find ways to talk about it all the time, which is probably not as exciting to people who are not in the field. But it's just really been an outstanding experience that I have had the last few years at Johns Hopkins. And as far as preparing, or I guess I should talk about my position a little bit, I am a special educator. I have been a self-contained special education teacher for about 9 years in Baltimore County, primarily with students with autism in our communication and learning support programs here. And as far as my position, like Leslie said, I felt passionately about my job and as a special educator, and I still do. But truly, with this experience, I'm better able and more clearly able to understand and identify the function of challenging behaviors, and being really able to create more effective behavior intervention plans, and able to increase student achievement, which is ultimately the end goal for anyone in education. I also feel that I was able to further develop my skills to train the adult supports that work in my classroom. And if anybody is also a self-contained teacher out there, or even a special educator in inclusion, you are responsible for managing those adults. And it's not really a skill that you've ever been taught in undergrad or even in your master's program. And it's something that you kind of have to learn on the job. But as you become and you prepare to be a behavior analyst, you really further develop those skills to be able to do that and understand the why and how behind that. Which also, changes the lives of our students, because honestly, they are in the trenches really working with our students as we're kind of managing everything else. That's incredibly important. I also feel so much better prepared to understand the different types of data collection systems to support my students. And I know that Leslie also said the same thing, but that's probably what I learned the most in preparing for this field, or preparing for this position. Data collection, I just felt like, as when I started, it was just really thrown out there, like, you're going to collect data, you're going to understand these behavior objectives, where nobody really dives deep into understanding how to create those data systems and what different types of data collection look like. And it's really important. It's really important to be able to understand and analyze that data, but also be able to communicate that data to your staff, who need to understand it, and also to the families and what that truly means to them, to understand what's going on with their child. And I really think that as a special educator, I wish that that's something just alone that I could teach every other special educator out there. And then my number one, the faculty at Johns Hopkins is unlike anything else I have ever experienced. They are truly leaders in the field of behavior analysis outside of this program. And what you get coming to this program is this staff and faculty who is so supportive, and really build a community within this small group that I think will last to be lifelong, because they're so passionate about what they do that they're really able to make everybody in the program feel that same way. And I just look at them truly as mentors as I start my profession as a behavior analyst. And I think that I know that they will always be there to support me, just like they were in the program, and be able to answer any questions that I will have that come up in the future. And as Leslie said, I also am really surprised and taken back by the relationships that I built. I also did a cohort for my master's program that was longer. And while I developed friendships, they are nothing like the relationships that I developed within this program for us. That was 2 years. I didn't expect to have lasting relationships that I developed, in my undergrad. And I feel so lucky to have made those friendships and that supportive, the support system. But also, I think another thing that really surprised me that is not really anything that we've talked about yet tonight is really the professionalism that comes along with completing this program and becoming a behavior analyst. I feel that I've developed my skills to work with, the staff members in my school, the students, but most importantly, the family members that I work with every day. And I just continue to think that you're really using behavior, and it becomes something that's just a part of you rather than just what you do. And the ways that I'm really using behavior analysis in my life outside of just this job or my professional life. Professional life. It's carried through in everything I do and everything I think about. And it's pretty neat. But it's just been such a great experience. And like Leslie said, we will stick around and are so happy to answer any questions because we absolutely love this program and cannot suggest it enough. So, thank you.
Thank you, guys. That was wonderful. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. It's so good to have you virtually back at Johns Hopkins. We definitely miss you in the program. I want to just touch also on, you guys both mentioned this cohort model, and I talked a little bit about it before, but the cohort model I think is very important, as Jackie and Leslie were talking about, but it's definitely a benefit of this program, especially when you're getting towards the end of the program and you start to get ready to prepare for the exam. We see these natural study groups begin to develop, and then folks I know have reported back to me that they work very closely within their study groups to prepare for the exam and practice many of the strategies that we have talked about throughout our courses. So some other advantages that I want to share with you guys is the focus of our program is on ABA and education. So that can be really within that K through 12 setting, as well as other educational settings. We serve our focus is not, we are not an ABA autism program. There are many programs out there that the focus is specifically on serving students with autism. We really prepare our students to serve all different types of disabilities, severe disabilities, emotional disabilities, inclusion settings, special ed settings. We are the only graduate school of education in Maryland to offer this specialized certificate. And then another advantage, which we've talked about, is our practicum experience. Again, as an elective, we provide you with supervisors. We have the course that's associated with the practicum where you can talk about what you're practicing every day and learning. We have this course outline, right? But it's also individualized based on our trainees' skill level. So just like we do with our own students in K through 12, we assess our supervisees to determine where they are within the field, what skills they have already, what skills they need to develop. And from that, we individualize each student's supervision and practicum experience as they go through the program. Another great advantage is that students who complete the ABA program at Hopkins will pass the BCBA exam, and they pass above the national pass rate. So as of February 2021, we have had 62 graduates take the BCBA exam, and 60 graduates have become board certified. So that's a 97% pass rate. This includes both our first and second time candidates. Hopefully you guys are aware the BCBA, the BACB also publishes their pass rates, and their pass rates really focus on first time pass rates for the exam. So in 2019, the pass rate for all first-time BCBA test takers was 63%. So you can see it's a tough exam, not a high pass rate. But in 2019, our pass rate was above that at 76%. We're anxiously awaiting for our 2020 report to see how our students fared this year, and my own prediction is that it's going to be even higher than it was in 2019, but we are still awaiting that. But I keep my own data too. All of our faculty, the final advantage, I think Jackie and Leslie shared some very gracious information about the faculty, but they are all board certified and they are all practicing behavior analysis every single day. Okay, and then some data about our program, because we love data. Since our program began in 2013, we've had 76 students go through our program and graduate, and they represent a variety of professionals: special educators, specialists, behavior specialists, school psychologists. We've had a lot of school psychologists go through the program, school counselors, administrators, instructional specialists. We represent, our students who come through our program represent 11 different school systems across Maryland, as well as students in DC. And we have had 6 cohorts complete the program. 62 are board certified, 36 are licensed behavior analysts. So within the state of Maryland, if you are practicing behavior analysis, you must become a licensed behavior analyst. So our graduates are becoming LBAs within the state of Maryland, which is very important. And currently we have cohort 7 and 8 who are currently enrolled. And as I was discussing with cohort 7, we are halfway through the spring semester, which means they are all graduating very, very soon. As Leslie and Jackie can probably remember, I used to say, okay, there's only 8 more weeks left, and that's the spot we are in right now with our cohort 7. And then my final slide before I turn it back over to Liz is this question that I often get, so I'd like to turn it into a slide, is who's the ideal program candidate? So we are looking for students, for applicants who have a desire to commit to the field of behavior analysis, to apply behavior analysis. This is not just a certificate to get additional training. This is a certificate for folks who want to become board certified behavior analysts. So that desire to commit to the field moves into my second point of an ideal program candidate, and that is our ideal candidate understands all of the requirements. Again, we're here to guide you, but as a candidate of the program, you have to understand what the requirements are to become board certified, understand the coursework requirements, along with the fieldwork experience requirements. And you can find all of that information at the Behavior Analyst Certification Board website, bacb.com. Also, our candidates need to be able to commit 2 to 3 years of intensive graduate work, and it is an intensive program for sure, but that intensity definitely pays off when you become a board certified behavior analyst and a good board certified behavior analyst, with strong ethics and competencies to practice behavior analysis. Obviously, we need to have candidates who meet the admissions requirements. And finally, our ideal candidate is somebody who is willing to work and study hard to be successful in the program. And now I turn it back over to Liz. Who's going to talk to you about the admissions application requirements.
Thank you, Dr. Martyr, and thank you, Leslie and Jackie. As always, it's music to my ears to listen to you about the program. So we've covered a lot of the background of the nuts and bolts, so to speak, of the postmasters. But now we'll talk about the admissions application requirements, and they're not quite as intense, but they are required. We do have a fully online application. One of the kind of basic admission parameters that we look to is a 3.0 or better cumulative undergraduate and graduate grade point average to qualify for this program. As I mentioned, fully online form, you can complete the application form really fairly easily. The 2 pieces that we do require for upload are your CV or your resume, and a personal statement that is addressing kind of your statement of purpose. Why ABA? Why now? What you would like to do with that with your career, where you see this going. And then outside, once you submit your application form, you would need to request your official transcripts from all colleges or university, post-secondary level institutions attended to be sent to us. And the instructions are right there in the online application form. In addition to that, within the form, we do ask for 2 letters of recommendation, academic or professional, if you've been out of school for a number of years and maybe your master's is behind you. But someone to speak to your ability to read, write, research on the graduate level, if it's a professional supervisor, is required. So within the online application form, you do need to list their names and their email addresses. So I would say to students, as you want to plan ahead and contact your recommenders and explain to them the program, send them some program information so they're aware of what you're applying for. And then they automatically get an invitation from us once you submit their names in the online application form, and they can upload your recommendation letter for you right there in the application. This program does not require the general record examination. It's not really applicable to what you're learning. So no standardized admissions test unless you are an international applicant, and I'll get to that next. Okay. So anyone who is international or internationally educated, so in other words, you've earned your degrees outside the United States or Canada, has 2 extra steps to their application. The first is you do need to request your transcripts from your institutions to be sent to a international credential evaluation provider. And we have a lot of information for this on your website. And again, Tanya and I would be happy to speak to you afterwards to walk you through this process. But basically, your transcripts are sent to the evaluator, and the evaluator translates them from the country's educational system to the US semester system. And it's very beneficial to have this, I think, for candidates because you can keep this with you for the rest of your professional lives. But that is required, and we also require for anyone who is whose native language is not the English language, either a TOEFL, the test of English for the foreign language, or the International English Language Testing System test must be submitted as well. So very detailed information. I'll leave it there with our kind of website right there for you to take a look at. The other piece is obviously cost, tuition, and fees. So we are looking, just recently had our 21-22 fees approved. This is a part-time program, so it's 2 courses in fall and spring. And Dr. Martyr, correct me if I'm wrong, there are no summer classes, so there's not a summer term. So you're looking at a course cost of $2,625. There are not currently online courses. I mean, I should back that up. During the pandemic for COVID-19, when we were completely online, we did have online courses, but I do include that course fee because there's a differential between our face-to-face courses and our online. In addition to that, there's a $175 per semester charge for registration, and then an $80 application fee that's payable when you submit. There are additional costs if you fee costs if you choose to do the practicum courses with us and to cover supervision fees. And then for additional information for tuition or fees, you are always welcome to take a look at our website for additional breakdown on things like financial aid, cost of attendance, things that you might more information to help you in the planning process. So for financial aid, 82% of our graduate degree seeking students in the School of Education do borrow some form of graduate loan through the federal financial aid system. And we do advise students to complete the free application for federal student aid, which is a Department of Education form that is just puts you in line to see what you're eligible to receive. It doesn't mean that you are actually borrowing at that point, but you do need to fill the entry application out. And we encourage applicants to do that closely around when they're applying and not to wait until you get your admissions decision to do that. First of all, the FAFSA isn't going to obligate you. You're not taking out loans at that point, but it is getting you into the system. It does take about 10 to 15 days to process for the government to process that form. So we always say, go in, fill it out, have it ready, regardless of what you choose to do. Good idea to do that sooner than later. And then for institutional scholarships, the School of Education does offer the endowed scholarship, and there's a limited number of partial need-based scholarships that are available for fall and spring semesters each academic year. If you're interested and you haven't started your application yet, I'd strongly encourage you to also fill out the scholarship application, which is due by April 1st, and that puts you in line for consideration for both next fall and next spring. And scholarships can range anywhere from $800 a semester to $2,000 a semester, and it's need-based. So we do require you to complete the FAFSA form that I talked about earlier, in addition to the scholarship application, which is a short form for consideration. Another area I always like to mention, particularly for folks that are in this program, is external scholarship resources. We have a listing of private scholarships that are on our financial aid website. And we've seen over the recent years, we've had students reporting back some really good success with scholarship.com, teacher.org, EduPass. We've had a number of students that come in that are GATE scholars. People that are getting individual funding is available. And it really is about just kind of taking a look at the resources and applying. So I want to make sure everyone is aware of that as well. And finally, we're coming to our question and answer period. So this is the time when we're going to ask each of you to Feel free to put into the chat your questions. We'll read them aloud, and certainly we'll do our best to provide you answers. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to type their questions, and Tanya and I'll read those aloud. While we're waiting for that, Dr. Martyr, I was wondering if you could, in terms of the practicum, because the 7 courses are required and then the choice, the benefits that you see, and maybe Leslie and Jackie could chime in as well about doing your practicum with the School of Education and our kind of practicum coordinators and supervision, as opposed to not. I mean, what are the kind of pros and cons there?
So I definitely, says Dr. Martyr, I would say that the pros of doing the practicum electives with us is that we organize everything for you. We make it as easy as we can for you. I was speaking with our practicum coordinator the other day, and she was talking about this, and she said it in such a great way that we do all the heavy lifting on getting the supervisors for you, making sure that your placement is appropriate, and making sure that you get to practice and have the opportunities to practice. That is a definite benefit because then students can really focus in on practicing. They don't have to focus in on making sure that they're paying a supervisor, the supervisor is approved or meets all of the BACB requirements. The other piece of it is you're paying the tuition and the fees. You don't have to worry about paying the supervisor, and it's more knowing what the fees are for supervisors out there in the field. It seems to be more cost effective to do it through a university who takes care of paying for the supervisors.
Great, thank you so much. We do have a question. Tanya, would you like to lead us in on that?
Sure, thanks, Liz. Question that we have from Andrea. What is the likelihood of participating in this program from a distance? What face-to-face requirements are required?
So that is such an interesting question given our time. So right now our courses are being offered virtually, but we are a face-to-face program. So all of our coursework, it is expected for our students to be in person within our school. So if folks are from outside of Maryland, we would expect for them to come here to study with us in person.
A private question here. This is for Leslie and Jackie. Can you talk to us a little bit about work-life balance and your pursuit of the program? It sounds like you both had busy careers going, and how you kind of how you felt the workload and the pace, and how you managed things.
This is Jackie. I can start. Leslie, feel free to jump in if you want to add anything. Because I think Leslie and I can offer definitely 2 different perspectives, but kind of similar. I'm going to be completely transparent. You have to dedicate time to this program. It is not easy, but it's worth it. And as far as work-life balance, I did prioritize my time, and I kind of had to time block and make sure that I was able to set aside so much time every day, and kind of what that looked like hours per day versus like on the weekdays versus the weekends. But I also think if you are able to manage your time, you can make it work. If it helps at all, I planned a wedding and got married and bought a house in the 2 years of doing this program. So I also maintained, great friendships, and I'm really close with my family. So all of it's possible. And I think Leslie can jump in because she has a family at home. So it's hard, but I 100% think it's possible if you can think about it.
Thanks, Jackie. This question is one that I was very concerned about, actually, this, coming into the program, because when I started the program, I have 3 boys, and when I started the program, they were under the age of 5. So it was or under the age of 6, I believe, it was for me to balance that life, family, kids, being a mom. It is a different perspective. I have to tell you though, like Jackie said, being organized, it is doable as long as you can maintain the organization. You're blocking off times that you're going to do, do your schoolwork and get your papers written and do those things. And you're just blocking off times. I mean, I would plan it out ahead of time and block out times. I, again, was able to be a good mom. I was able to attend my kids' sports practices and sports games, and I was able to manage it. It was intense. It was difficult. I was tired. I'm not going to lie. It is a lot of work. But if you have a support system and you have family to help you and you have that, it really is manageable. The other thing is that a lot of the things that we were learning about apply to our daily jobs. So in a sense, especially with practicum, we were able to complete those hours within our jobs. So it didn't feel like extra work in that regard. And it just made me, the coursework every week, everything I learned made me better at what I did and almost made my job easier, if that makes sense. So it is manageable. Like I said, I did it with 3 kids. So it was hard, but it's doable if you stay organized and have a support system.
Wow, thank you very much. I think that helps. I mean, you're entering everything. And in terms of, Leslie, while we have you, and then for Jackie, you really touched on a lot of the learning, the functional behavior assessment, behavior skills training, and the data of those 3. What has been most impactful in your work with students now? What clearly is there a standout of in your experience that has been really kind of your wow moment in terms of learning this program and now working with students in practice as a practitioner?
Jackie, I can go first. This is Leslie. I think for me, I really think understanding how to use the data that we collect to determine function behind behavior, but really not using data as just a checkbox that sometimes our special educators tend to do, but really understanding why it's so meaningful, why evaluation is so meaningful, and why analysis is so meaningful, and creating plans that work. I mean, that's the piece that really that I took away from the program, and I'm using every single day. And I'm training teachers on how to take effective data and why it's so important. And and then they see it and they're like, wow. And then it's not so scary anymore, because keeping track of all this data and this and this and this, and it's not it's not reinforcing when you're not getting anything out of it. And when you're using that data as like a reinforcement almost, to look, it's either working or it's not. What can we do? And like really seeing that, I think it's helped me tremendously in training other teachers. That's the piece I think. I didn't really know how to collect data that was actually meaningful. That really made, in my practice, I've improved dramatically, and it's helped a lot.
Thanks, Leslie.
I agree with you, Leslie. The data aspect of it, I really didn't know that much about the different types, and I was just blown away by that. But something I'm just kind of sitting here laughing to myself, thinking about that until I started this program, I had never heard before, and I'm a special educator, that there are only 4 functions of behavior, and nobody had ever just flat out said that, like, these are your choices, this is what it's going to be, and like ways to see that. And for me now, it's I can make a hypothesis and then analyze the data, but it's you can sometimes see it so clearly, and I just am surprised that I had, it took this to really like click for me.
Thank you so much. Well, we're running to the 5 o'clock hour, so I don't think we have any more questions in our queue. I want to thank everyone for coming today, participating, Dr. Martyr, Leslie, Jackie, and Tanya, and to our audience. I will put our information up here For application questions, please reach out to Tanya McMillan. You can see her address and phone number there, if not already. And then I also wanted to introduce Camila Mika Sims, who works closely with Dr. Martyr. She's actually on the student support side. She's program coordinator. So once students are admitted, they work closely with Camilla for all their needs for registration and questions and kind of resources. So that's there as well. And just a reminder, we are accepting applications for fall 2021. We're encouraging folks to start the application process as soon as possible. This is a cohort, so it does not have unlimited enrollment. So we always suggest that folks really shoot for the April, May, kind of getting your application materials together. And then classes do begin in the end of August. So Dr. Martyr, is there anything else you'd like to add for our audience today before we sign off?
No, I think we covered a lot of information today.
We did.
We definitely did. And I want to say thank you to Jackie and Leslie, as always, for joining us. But I also want to make sure that everybody knows how approachable we are. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please do feel free to reach out. We are always willing to talk to potential students about what we offer and answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.